Well, welcome everybody to Pickleball Presents. And today we have the pleasure of having Steve Paranto.
That's correct.
And so he is in the Hall of Fame. He has been involved in pickleball for over 50 years. He is a teaching pro. We've got so much to talk about. So before we started this, you were talking about your name, and we were talking about how to pronounce it. And you said it used to be spelled Parenteau. And I said, oh, like Catherine Paranto. And you said,
well, we never knew each other till pickleball, but we are distant cousins. That's a French Canadian. I am French Canadian descendants from the Dakotas, came down from Canada, and she is French Canadian. And I've actually looked on the family tree that my dad had kept, and we are distant cousins. So interesting.
Your side of the family just changed the spelling of your name.
Yeah, there was probably some legal matters involved, and maybe some jail terms, or who knows?
Yeah.
Let's change. We better change our name, kind of thing. So.
I understand. So I asked if we could start our conversation about Bainbridge Island. So I know that you came across pickleball 10 years after that started, but I imagine there's people who are listening, who'd like to hear that story from you.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and I have heard the story directly from Joel Pritchard's son at the first Hall of Fame induction, because we had a lot of questions for him. So 1965, as the story goes, these gentlemen, Joel Pritchard, Barney McCallum, and Bill Bell got finished golfing. They had a cabin on Bainbridge Island near Seattle, and the kids were kind of complaining there's nothing to do. They were bored, and so the dad said, "Well, hey, let's invent something. We can, you guys invent something, or we'll invent something." And pretty soon, Barney goes up to his place, just a couple places up, and cuts out some paddles. They find a plastic wiffle-y type ball. In fact, the ball originally was a different hole pattern than you're all seeing now. This was the original hole pattern. This is 26 holes, which now you call the indoor ball, but that was the pickleball. So they, this was a play toy a kid had, and they already had a badminton court. And so they lowered the net down, experimented with things, moved the no volley zone back because Bill Bell was rather tall, and it was too easy for him to reach the balls. And they basically made the rules that we play with today in a very short time. Probably the first day, 90% of the rules were made. And then it was just kind of a family game, family and friends for many years. And then in the 70s, Barney McCallum formed Pickleball Inc., and they started making paddles that looked exactly like this. These were the early tournament paddles that you use, and these were sold at institutions, schools, a lot of schools, recreation departments. Back in those early days, schools were the ones playing it more than anybody. Were the kids learning in PE, but then they didn't have any courts to play on.
And you think about the paddles nowadays with their, all the intricacies and all of the special design, that will guarantee you to play well.
What you wish.
Yeah. And so I just wonder, what is it like playing with a wooden paddle? It looks awful.
Well, so I played with this for 10 years, and the sweet spot was very small. You couldn't do reset points like we do today, with touch and control, precision. The game was fun, but it wasn't as much fun as when my father, I'm very proud to say, invented the first composite paddle. I was complaining about the weight of the wooden paddles. I weighed them. They were 13 times heavier than the ball. And I was a tennis player, and tennis rackets were only 7 times heavier. So I knew the ratio was wrong. And I told that to my dad. And then 2 weeks later, this is one of the very first composite paddles. He made 2 of these for my partner and I. And actually, this paddle plays pretty well even right now. My dad was a Boeing engineer. This is floor paneling from jet airplanes. And he was really good with materials. and knew that this, at least let's try it. Let's do a prototype. The first 2 prototypes worked great. My partner and I, Richard Skevington, were winning tournaments right away using these paddles, and we were losing in the finals before.
So what does that mean, a composite paddle? What does that mean?
Well, it's plastics combined with honeycomb. You know, you're combining different compositions, and basically the paneling was already made. We bought this stuff surplus, the materials from Boeing, and that turned into this.
Okay, so when you that's from an airplane then?
Yeah, airplane floor paneling. When you step on an airplane, that's what you're stepping on.
Yeah.
So it's strong yet light because of the honeycomb design.
Yeah, it kind of has absorbent. It kind of moves or gives a little bit, maybe.
Well, a little. I mean, there's different. Not so much. I mean, the big quality of this material is to be strong and light. Because
okay, so once you guys, invented the composite paddle, did it take off from there? Was there, did you guys manufacture quantities of them, or did you
in our garage? So dad had a 20-step process of making these paddles. It turned into Pro-Lite. So this is one of the early paddles.
Yeah.
If you have any that say Eatonville, Washington on like this, that's my high school garage. That's where I grew up. And, those are collector's items if you can find those. But remember, we didn't have the numbers of people playing pickleball then. But every tournament player within a year were all switched over from wood to this paddle.
Yeah. Because now all of a sudden, now you've got all those things you said. You can control the ball. You could reset. You could, probably add spin.
Well, spin back then wasn't a big deal. The balls, like as that whole pattern I showed you, wasn't a lot of spin. Really, the game wasn't much of a spin game like it is today. The outdoor ball with the 40 holes, like the Durafast 40 and all the plastic balls, were able to get more spin. So spin really didn't enter the picture to the degree that it is now until fairly, when the Duraball kind of took over. And then when players were ready to drill more than they played, because now they're drilling and getting so good at that.
Yes. And well, so you developed the paddle, and then the pros were all buying it.
No, we didn't remember, there weren't pros then. We were all just recreational players. There was no such thing as a pickleball pro. We were just people who just fell in love with the sport, loved playing tournaments when we had them. And this was, in fact, this also coincided with the same time Sid Williams formed the USAPA, the first governing body. So we did have to get this approved. There were really no rules on paddle restrictions or anything at that time.
So who are some people who are also currently involved in pickleball who you were, were back in the day you were playing with? And so who are some of those other people who are still doing it today?
My partner back at this time period, we were the very first 2 people to use this paddle. His name is Richard Skevington. We were actually high school buddies. I taught him how to play. He was 1 year behind me in college, and we were roommates. He was just a really good athlete. He was baseball, basketball. I wish I could have had him play tennis with me in high school, but he was too busy playing baseball. But he's got back into playing now, and he's played at the regional in Idaho a couple months back. Did fairly well. At one time he was ranked number 1 in the world in singles. For about a year, he was one of the very best singles players. He and I dominated doubles in the middle 80s when we came out with that paddle. So he's still around. In those early days, Dan Gabinek is still playing, and he's also inducted in the Hall of Fame as a player. Tony Longbreak is playing. He played in the 80s. He quit for a long time, and now he's back playing gung ho, and he lives in Arizona.
And Steve Wong, didn't you say
Steve Wong came much later, and so did Mark Friedenberg came lader. And those 2 are, Mark Friedenberg is in the Hall of Fame. Steve is a finalist for this year's Hall of Fame. Great players. They came much later, like 90s or 2000s.
Wow. Wow. Well, hey, you sent me some pictures and I thought we could take a look at those.
Okay.
And so this first one is, I know this is in Bainbridge Island. And so can you tell us the setting here?
Right. Well, about a month ago, Rob Davidson he's a teaching pro and a very good playing pro, good friend of mine. I certified him as an instructor, IPTPA instructor. He called me and wanted me to teach a camp with him on Bainbridge Island. They built some brand new courts. They were having a Founders Days tournament, because, the founders are from there. And one of the days after our clinic, we headed over to the original court. This court is owned by one of the guys who learned how to play on that court, Scott Stover. So it's kind of nice that he bought that from the Pritchards. And we went over there, and all four of us pros here, teaching pros, played a game on it using old wooden paddles and the old Cochin ball. And if you can see, there's no room at all on the sides. There's that tree growing in back. And that's why they had the rule originally for like 35, 40 years, when you served, you had 1 foot inside the baseline. And that's because the tree was kind of in the way. And that rule stuck. And that rule's only changed about 15 years ago. So the court's horrible, but it's great at the same time because they kept it just like it was in the day. There's a nice plaque there, and they'll never change it. It's kind of a mecca for all of us pickleball addicts to go see the original spot where the sport began.
Yeah. How exciting.
Yeah.
And okay, and then let me see here. Let me go to we've got here, this one here.
So this one here. Okay, so this is in the late 80s. On the far left, that's Dave Ketter. He was, a lot older than us, probably in his 50s. We thought he was a really old man. And then that's Ron Mills next to him. They had really good hands. And then that's me in the blue. And then my current partner and longtime partner from then, that's Randy Byther on the far right. We still play once a week together.
Oh, wow.
So it's pretty cool that Dave has passed away. I think Ron is still alive. Dave used to actually play doubles with my dad in senior events. But I love looking at those old pictures. And if you look in the back, a lot of times
pickleball is spelled wrong.
Pickleball wrong by accident or to be cute. And I have a feeling it was by accident. But back then, Nally's Pickles sponsored most of our tournaments. This would have been a tournament that ran by Sid Williams, who ran a tournament about every 6-7 weeks up there near Seattle when we first became a sanctioned sport. And back then we won trophies and plaques. Now everything are just medals. Who has room for all those trophies and plaques? At least the medals you can string up, on a string somewhere. But
well, okay, but what was it like finding tournaments? Where were these tournaments?
Well,
how far did you travel? How big were they? What was it like? I mean,
there was nothing like today. So you couldn't go online and find a tournament. There was no such thing. You had to be in the know, and most all of them were in the Northwest where the sport was invented. And most all of them were run by Sid Williams. And so, if you were a member of the USAPA back then, and Sid formed that, that's how he's inducted in the Hall of Fame. Then you got notified when the tournaments were, and we didn't have ratings then. You didn't play in 5.0. You just played in advanced, intermediate, begin. So we were advanced. We were at the highest level, but there was no such thing as a rating system at that time period.
And so, has it just been a steady growth in the way you look at it, or did something happen where it really took off then? I mean, because you think about the opposite of that. I mean, I think about nationals, at the Indian Wells, and that huge extravaganza and all the, it's just beautiful. It's amazing. How did we get there? How did it go from having tournaments mainly in the Northwest where it was invented to, to having it across the world, having it across the country? Was there something that you saw, that sparked that growth?
Yeah, there are a lot of things, but you know, back in those days, you look at this picture of us all smiling and happy. That's how we all felt about pickleball. We knew it was the greatest thing on earth, just like today's players. We
Yeah.
couldn't figure out why other people didn't feel the same way. Well, one reason they didn't feel the same way, we didn't have courts. So all these, you know, this is indoors where we're using existing badminton courts. So there were no courts.
And then when you talk about the courts, I imagine were they like the nets were temporary nets, probably
strung up from wall to wall. So we did not hit ATPs because there was no post to hit around. So that didn't even exist. Right. They were just light badminton nets strung from wall to wall. These particular tournaments that Sid put on, we played on a carpet, indoor-outdoor carpet surface.
What?
Yeah, it actually was a very good surface that, you know, like a rubberized underneath, and then like indoor-outdoor carpet. It had kind of a slow bounce, and it was fairly good on your feet because it was, in fact, a lot of people dove on it. I mean, there were guys who wore knee pads and dove like they were volleyball players.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. But then what happened is a lot of these people grew old, retired, became travelers, taking it to their retirement communities, became snowbirds. And then it picked up and through retirement communities, and they would mark courts on tennis courts. So then it got big in the retirement communities. Then the portable net system came out where everybody could be putting courts on their tennis courts. All of those things combined, and then of course getting to have nationals at a big, you know, just as of late last years at Indian Wells, that hit the tennis community big, where they go, wow, this is a legitimate sport. Let's try it. So all those things combined, RVers that were traveling around that were pickleball players, taking all their resorts.
So they could take their portable net, set it up, teach people, and then, interesting.
Oh, and then I can't forget the ambassador program. Earl Hill, who is also in the Pickleball Hall of Fame, got there because of all the hard work he did creating the ambassador program. And at that time, you really needed ambassadors. We didn't have the internet to spread the word. We didn't have YouTube to spread the word. We just had Johnny Appleseeds of the ambassador world spreading the word. So all those things combined.
Yeah. And so at that point, when the ambassador program started, was it across the nation? Was it that big yet? Or were we mostly in the Western United States? I mean, where?
Well, mostly the Western, you know, from Arizona to the Northwest, but then it just gradually found its way farther east. Yeah.
Okay, let's take a look at some of these other pictures that you have. I want to get this one. This one here. So that's you and your dad?
Yeah. Can you hear me? I just had a kind of buzzing when you were talking.
I can hear you.
Okay.
You're
kind of buzzing when you're speaking.
Okay. I'm not sure what's happening.
Okay. Well, you can hear me though. Whoop.
I'm trying to turn off my mic. Maybe that will change it.
Okay.
Is it better now?
Not really.
No.
Oh, I can't hear you now. I see your lips moving. I can try with a headset.
Okay. Oh, how about now?
It's still not good. Let me plug it. Maybe if I plug in a headset.
Okay.
Well, now for a second you're better. Try now.
Okay. How does that sound?
Well, I can understand you, but
it's still odd.
Oh wait, no. Oh, that was better.
Okay. I wonder if it's just the internet connection.
Maybe.
Okay. All right. Well, let's take a look at this picture if we're good.
Yeah, it's good. Well, yeah. So that picture was taken right around the time Dad invented the Pro-Lite paddle. We lived on a lake. You can see the beautiful setting there with the lake in the background.
Oh,
Dad fell in love with the sport. I taught my dad how to play.
yeah.
He fell in love with it and then put a court on right in front of his house there on the lake. It's still there. I wish we owned that property still. But so I'm in my 20s in that picture. Dad's in his 50s, and he just passed away 2 years ago at 89. So that's how long ago that picture was taken. So really fond memories of us out there on the lake playing pickleball. My mom played with us a lot too. She was a good player too.
Yeah.
I had the good fortune of playing in at least one tournament with my dad and one tournament with my mom.
Oh, wow. That's awesome. I know. I always say, you know what, it is a family sport. Whether you're playing tournaments or not, I really think I love it when kids get involved. But you and your dad had, you guys were inventors together. Is that correct?
Yeah, we invented several PE items. I was a PE teacher for 30 years, and I would come up with, I was the idea guy, and Dad was the knew how to make it guy. So our most successful product was called the Spider Ball. It's still being sold. They're made overseas. I should have had one on my hand. It's a ball with legs on it, and it rolls, and then it stops. So it's a limited rolling ball. So in your PE class, you can play hockey. You could play miniature golf, shuffleboard, all those games.
Okay, and are you saying that you came up with the concept and then your dad made it happen?
That's how we did on everything we did together. We were a good team. I was not an engineer in any way, but
why would you want a spider ball? In my, I'm not a PE teacher at all, but I mean, why would you come up with that? Why would you want that? What are the benefits?
Well, of course, I just told my dad again. I said, gee, I just got done teaching miniature golf in my gym, and it's a hard floor, and we were using yarn balls that wouldn't roll straight. And I said, like I usually did, knowing that my dad will probably do something with it. I said, gee, if someone could just invent a ball that would be limited rolling, but roll straight on a hard surface. The next morning I wake up and he has a rubber ball with rubber bands sticking out of it.
Oh, I guess so. This way you could have more control over the ball.
Well, yeah, it rolls straight. And it became a very popular PE item. It's PE teachers are still using it today for lots of fun, different games.
Yeah. How cool. Okay. And then let's look here. Okay, let's take a look at some of your current things that you're doing. So tell us about this picture. Is this a clinic that you were teaching?
So I had so much fun last week being one of the teaching pros at the Suncoast Pickleball Boot Camp in North Carolina, Asheville, North Carolina.
Oh, wow.
We had 8 of the greatest teaching pros. I can probably name all 8. We had from my area, Bonnie Williams, who I coached, Wes Gabrielson, who I've coached, and Enrique Ruiz that I coached. So we had the 4 of us. And then back there, we had Pickleball Deb Harrison. We had Jennifer Butler. We had Sylvia Whitehouse, and we had Rick Witzkin. I named them all pretty good. And we had such a great time. The energy of these 8 teaching pros. We were on our feet about 8 hours a day between teaching and doing exhibitions. Yeah. And so this is my group of 8. Every 2 hours, we had a different group. We had 64 campers, and they just loved it. And I know, and most of them are seniors. That's what, when you teach at these camps, most are seniors.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what a great time we had there. We had social events every evening and like a boot camp all day. We worked them pretty hard.
So, okay. So was it a one-day event then?
No. This was Sunday through Thursday. This was 4 days. Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, 5 days of instruction. And then they even had one more day where they played a shootout. So it was an intense boot camp.
I mean, okay. These people are very lucky to have all of you and then to get to do it for that long. That's wonderful.
Yeah, and I'll do it again. It was Russell Etherington organizes this with his pal Norman, and man, they do just a great job setting everything up for us. Everybody was fed breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and on site we just stayed there on site. We had a place to stay. It's where Billy Graham lived his 100 years, and so he did a lot of things in this very same Montreat resort retreat that we were at.
So everyone, the players and the teachers all stayed there, and then, oh, that sounds fabulous.
We all, every morning and lunch and dinner, I would try to eat with different people. Just so interesting to talk to these seniors. We had David Holt was in this clinic. He's a 3-time Grammy Award winning folk artist.
Oh,
and amazing, all these guys had such great stories about their lives, and it was a pleasure just to have lunch and dinner with them and get to know them.
Did he play some music for you guys?
So he's battling, I always forget the name of the disease, Michael J. Fox.
Parkinson's.
And so pickleball, he took up pickleball because it's increasing his quality of life with Parkinson's. And so I think he's unable to do all the things he could do before. He played 10 instruments. But pickleball, I think, his wife was in the clinic with him too.
Okay, let's take a look at some of your other pictures here. Okay. All right. And who do we have here?
So on the far left is Alex Hamner. And in the middle is my dad, Arlen. And on the far right, we have Jennifer Lucor. And this picture was taken probably 8 years ago, before we ever even thought of that there would be a Pickleball Hall of Fame in the near future. And all 3 of them are in the Hall of Fame.
Wow. And you know what, Steve, could you talk a little bit about the Hall of Fame? Because I know that I just recently, I think USAPA announced that they're going to be doing a Hall of Fame. And so what do you think about that?
Well, I'm very upset about it and hurt by it, and so are all the other inductees. The Pickleball Hall of Fame was started in 2017. Seymour Rifkin really got the ball rolling. He actually went to the USAPA with the idea, and they didn't feel it was time or necessary. Then when he started it, then they did get involved because, it's going to happen. Let's get involved. We actually even had Jack Thomas, who was their current president, on our board at the time. We had other people from their board that were on our selection committees and on our committees. And everybody in this vast group of wide variety of people were all USAPA members. So we had our first induction in 2017. My dad was inducted as the inventor of the paddle. Sid Williams was inducted as the creator of the first governing body, and all the inventors were inducted. Well, at least that year it was Joel Pritchard and Barney McCallum, plus 2 outstanding players that kind of revolutionized the sport. Mark Friedenberg, known as Yoda, and Billy Jacobson. That was our first class. Now, since then, 3 of those people that got to enjoy that special night have passed away. And they wouldn't have had that special night. And so I know my dad and Sid thought it was one of their biggest accomplishments. They would have never experienced that if it wasn't started at that time. So since then, we've had a very successful Hall of Fame. We received a letter from USAPA thanking us for doing it, and this is about a year and a half ago, and pretty much also saying, now we're going to take it. It's going to, we're going to do it now. Well, that really upset all of us. They just really want full control, in my opinion. We offered them 2 board seats. We negotiated for a year and a half. We still haven't offered 2 board seats. Now, and remember, everybody on the board are also members of the USAPA. And we're from all aspects of so, and also then all of us who were inducted received a letter about 6 months ago telling us that USAPA is starting a Hall of Fame and they would like us to be in their Hall of Fame, and they offered us a lifetime membership, and also a golden ticket. Now, if you know what a golden ticket is, you have to win a regional, not very easy, to make sure that you are going to be at nationals competing.
Right.
And
Right.
so a lot of these players have worked really, really hard to get a golden ticket, and some of them have spent a lot of money playing a lot of regionals.
Yeah.
I would say that some people would call that a bribe. And they were very insensitive. I'll tell you that very insensitive to us Hall of Fame members. And what we care about in the Hall of Fame are our inductees.
Yeah.
And this would really diminish the value. If you have 2 Hall of Fames, it's so confusing, it's divisive. And remember, USAPA in the beginning, when they were talking to us, they didn't want 2 Hall of Fames. They wanted to push us out of the way. So now when they say, oh, other sports have more than 1 Hall of Fame, well, they're not run by governing bodies. And they aren't, when there are more than 1 Hall of Fame, you may have a collegiate Hall of Fame, you may have a pro Hall of Fame.
Well, wouldn't you say, like, I couldn't, since everybody on there is in the USAPA, and the idea is to offer 2 of the board seats to USAPA, it seems like USAPA would be an integral part of the Hall of Fame that's already been established.
That's what we wanted, and they were a sponsor for us the first 3 years.
Yeah.
And that's what we would love it if they would help our Hall of Fame. If they really cared about the sport, instead of controlling everything about the sport, then I'm sure they would. And the pickleball world knows this.
Yeah, they do.
There's been a lot of who doesn't know this. Well, I think they even know it too. It's just that they want control. Is the USA Pickleball, and I actually know most of the board members don't feel this way either. They were bullied into feeling this way. So,
yeah. And the thing is that USAPA already has so much control already with the ratings, with what they do, and really to listen to the members and then to go in with a good heart would actually give them more control, because there would not be that divisiveness. And really, having a successful Hall of Fame is a worthy goal, and it's a great thing to have. And I think they're really short-sighted then by, irritating a whole community. And I think probably that's USAPA. I mean, my little tiny viewpoint is they could listen better and understand what's going on, and not, you're right, and not just go for control's sake.
Well, what speaks volumes is that every single member of the Hall of Fame refused their offer. Every one of them, even the relatives of the inventors who passed away.
Yeah.
I think that speaks volumes. And now we have ambassadors threatening to quit. Now get this, Earl Hill, who is in the Hall of Fame for creating the ambassador program, his daughter's an ambassador, and I think she's threatening to quit or turn, if I think she is saying she will quit being an ambassador if USAPA continues with having their own Hall of Fame. Now, if that, and then we have past presidents of the USAPA not supporting this.
Yeah. Well, hopefully, maybe they'll see this interview, and maybe it'll resonate.
I hope so.
Yeah. All right. We've got some more pictures here. Okay, so is this from this recent weekend?
Yeah, that's me doing a selfie with some of my students in the background, and you can tell I'm pretty much happy as a clam that day with students that are just eager to learn. Just so much fun.
And okay, we saw that one. And this is your mixed doubles partner?
This is my new mixed doubles partner, and she's got quite a history in the world of table tennis. This is Judy Horfrost.
Yes.
She is in the Hall of Fame of table tennis. She was on the team that went to China in 1971, known as Ping Pong Diplomacy. She was a 15-year-old. She was the youngest member of that team. So when you see the movie Forrest Gump and they have the table tennis scene, that's based on her team.
Okay. Wow.
And she owns Paddle Palace, which is the Pickleball Central version, ping pong's version of Pickleball Central. A big, huge catalog company sells equipment all over the world, and she lives near me. I found out she was playing pickleball, so I started giving. I wanted to give her lessons, and in the back of my mind, I was really giving her lessons so I'd have a new senior partner. We're the very same age, which is one of the things you look for when you play senior events, because you can grow old together, moving up the age, because it's 5-year increments. So we've won our last 2 tournaments together. We took second at regionals, losing to Larry Moon, who's a legend in my age bracket. We lost a very close match. So I'm just thrilled that I'm playing pickleball with a person who loves new.
I would think that a ping pong pro would have really fast hands.
Exactly. She does. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, how exciting for you guys.
Yeah.
And then and you guys are playing 5-0?
Well, remember, we're 65, so we're playing the best players in the tournaments our age. But, to be realistic, I would say a 65-year-old, the very best 65-year-olds are probably somewhere 4 or 5 to, I would say I would put Larry Moon at 5-0. But he might be the only one I put there, to tell you the truth. All I want to do is play the best players in the world my age.
Yeah. Well, so let me ask you a question, and I think then we'll bring our interview to a close. And it is, some people believe that if you're a 5-0, then you should be able to compete at 5-0 at whatever age. So the idea of doing away with the age division, so that you just have 5-0, you've got 4-5, 4-0, and so maybe with myself, I'm 60 and I'm playing 4-0, but maybe if I'm competing against 20-year-olds, I would be a 3-0.
So here's how this goes. Well, I have a lot of things on the ratings and everything. If our rating system was as accurate as, say, table tennis has a ratings from 0 to 3,000, and theirs is very accurate. So they can do just what you said. I played a table tennis tournament about 6 years ago where this old guy walked in kind of hobbling, and he entered at the highest. He's entered at like a 1,400, which is a pretty high ranked table tennis player. So he would have played at the best table that night. And we're all going, oh, poor guy, thinks he's, and then he won the tournament. So our rating system can't be accurate because you can't write an algorithm for doubles. That's my opinion. And so if you could, I'm pretty sure singles, we could make a very accurate algorithm.
Okay, break that down for me. Are you saying because doubles, you've got so many factors, and what your partner's doing is affecting you?
Yes.
So it doesn't give you an individual rating. Is that what you mean?
No, I'll give you 2 examples where it does not work. You know how you can isolate weaker players. I'll give you 2 examples. So one example is, and I'll even mention names. We have a great young player in our area. He's about 28, Joe Barkdahl. And Joe loves playing mixed doubles with his grandma in tournaments. Now, her name is Donna Quaith, and she's a very good 74-ish, 70 years old player. Yeah. But when he plays with grandma, and he'll play 4, 5, 5-0 tournaments with grandma.
Yeah.
And win. And when he does, grandma only gets to serve and return serve, pretty much. And he's able to play singles against 4 good solid 4 or 5 teams with 2 and beat them.
Wow.
I mean, I've seen him beat senior pros. I've seen him beat younger pros that have that. So they're,
that's amazing.
Now grandma's rating is through the chart. So that's not accurate. Now let's go to the other end of the spectrum where you have a good player my age playing with grandma. Now they can isolate grandma, and she has to hit a lot of balls. Right. Now my rating gets hit because grandma isn't a 4-5, 4-8 player. So here's 2 examples where you cannot make an algorithm. There's just too many elements, but there's 2 examples where I see it never working. As far as an act. So you want to hear my solution?
Okay. Yes, I do.
So this solves so much of that. I want the ratings to be based solely on, I shouldn't say pretty much solely, where your club would have skinny singles days. And your rating is based on skinny singles. In skinny singles, you need to use all the shots that you use in doubles. If you're a good skinny singles player, you're a good doubles player.
Yeah.
And I could go into a club if I had 50 people and I could stair step them from best to worst of those 50 using skinny singles.
Yeah, that's a good point, because then it's all you and
All you.
you know, although I think eventually, you know, it would wash itself out because, well, first of all, with your rating, you know, if I wanted to play 5-0, I can go ahead and sign up and get involved in that, even though I'm not. So people can always play up. And the grandma eventually won't have that partner. And so eventually it would wash out where she would, you know, probably be defeated, and it would therefore then maybe be more reflective of where she's really at.
Yeah, but again, then she might get a weaker lady because she's a very good 70 something player. Then she may not be able to find a woman partner her age that's as good as she is, and then they isolate her weaker woman partner. Now her rating gets hit the other way. So I'm just saying, it's never. I just don't think you can write an algorithm for doubles in pickleball. Now ping pong, the reason they can write an algorithm, perfectly,
because you're single.
No, well, yeah, but they have their singles rating applies totally to doubles because in doubles they have to alternate shots.
Oh, I see. So you can just track exactly.
Yeah, I mean, I have to hit, my partner hits. I hit, they hit. So you have to be good at singles to play doubles well. And you can't in other words, you can't isolate anybody in table tennis where we can.
Yeah. Well, okay, wait. Okay, I keep saying we're going to end this interview, but I wanted to wait. We have a picture here from the Hall of Fame. Do we have a picture from the Hall of Fame induct?
Oh, I think there was one I sent from the night we got into that. So that go back to that one picture.
Okay.
So that's me hitting the overhead. That's from the world's first tournament in '76, put on by the inventors. And there I'm using a wooden paddle with actually holes in it. There were no rules against that. My partner's David Lester. We were college buddies on the same tennis team, and he was a high-level badminton player, table tennis player. Well, he won this tournament in singles. He beat me in the finals. And then he and I lost in the finals in doubles to the guys who learned on that original Bainbridge court. In fact, one of them that owns that court today beat it. And they were sort of dinking, not like today's dinking, but we hadn't seen dinking before. I believe this might be the earliest tournament picture existing in pickleball. At least.
Wait a minute. You're saying that in the early days there was no dinking?
Oh no.
What?
We it was just bang, bang, bang. Remember, there were no teaching pros. There were no instructional videos. We were inventing how to play the game.
Oh my gosh, how interesting. And so do you think, how did the dink come about then? Was it a way to reset the ball, control the ball, and then not allow people to bang? Was that
right? And so these guys that learned on the original court, they sort of came up with an idea, to hit it soft, but they didn't have the high arching dink yet. My partner Richard Skevington and I in the '80s, we came up with the arch it high, clear, but we figured I didn't bounce high. Then my partner later in the 80s, we were the first ones to stack, but we didn't call it stacking then. My partner was a left-hander, big lefty, and we realized we were winning more points with him on my right. And we thought, well, why don't we do that all the time when we serve? We just move over. And the funny thing about that, we were sort of smart and creative, but then the Seattle guys came up to play us, and then they started doing it when they received and served. We were only doing it when we served. So we were half stacking. And then we looked at each other. Why didn't we think of that? We were almost all the way there.
And I guess thus the evolution of the game.
Right.
And then who knows where it's going to go, know, Well, hey, it's been a pleasure talking with you. And I feel like we could talk for another hour. I feel like there's, sorry. Okay. But I much respect to you, and thank you for your time and for sharing your pictures and your story and everything that you're doing.
Thank you, Jen.
Yeah. Okay.